Hello, everyone. Back once again. This is day 3 after being laid off, and like I said before, I don't necessarily plan on doing this as a daily occurrence, but it's just if I've got something that I feel is worthwhile mentioning, and hopefully a piece of advice by the end. So, some further developments. As I mentioned previously, one of my friends who works, at my current workplace, as well as my boss, are both trying to get in contact with other firms and try to get me a job. And it looks like that might be further along than I thought, because I'm finishing up an application tonight, as well as several other applications. And one of them in particular, I think after I do this next step within the application process, they're probably going to want to set up an interview, which would be very good. And so my boss sent out emails to several different contacts, and two of them got back to me right away. In fact, one of them is actually connected to like 5 different companies. I guess she works directly or indirectly with a bunch of them. But anyway, so yeah, and then she wants to meet me tomorrow at some point. I'm not exactly sure what time. She said, are you available tomorrow? I said, yeah, sure. What time? But I haven't heard back from her yet, so I'll probably call her tomorrow and try to work something out. But that is progress. It's obviously it's not a guarantee, but it is certainly a step in the right direction. So that's very much exciting. I'm trying to be cautiously optimistic. I don't want to get my hopes up too much, because I don't want to get my hopes up just to have them crushed, So let's see. Piece of advice. Two pieces of advice, actually. I'll try to make the other one quick and try to make it not too lengthy. So the first piece of advice is that when you're in this kind of situation, just make sure, and again, it seems obvious, but when you're afraid, obvious advice tends to slip your mind. Always do a little something every day to work towards the goal of getting a new job, because in my case, whether it's applying to different places, even if let's say I've applied to all the places I can apply to for now. Well, in my case, I do a lot of coding, so maybe what I can do, I can think of where am I weak in my coding. It's like, okay, I could be better at JavaScript, let's say, for example. So let's go on to Codecademy and see if I can brush up something to work towards it. And there should never be a day that goes by that you just miss it. Like, don't take a day off from trying, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And the other piece of advice is, now I'll try to keep this quick because it's not that interesting a story, but it's a cautionary tale, I guess. At the beginning of this whole journey, my original place that I had worked at, I had, before this one that I'm about to, get laid off from, I had worked there for nearly 10 years. And it worked, it mostly worked pretty good. But, at the time when I first started there, I was still living with my parents at the time. I hadn't met my wife yet. So, I was young. I was new to the game, as they say. And something that I didn't watch out for is at that first job for almost the entire 10 years, with all except for the last year that I worked there, I was not actually an employee. I was on contract, which means legally speaking, you're self-employed. Here's the problem with that. When you're in a situation like that, where you are basically an employee but you're actually on contract, you get none of the benefits of being employed and none of the benefits of being self-employed. It's actually the worst of both worlds, because if you're truly self-employed, you've got expenses that go towards that business, and then those expenses can go towards your income tax deductions, which brings me to my next point, which leads up to the whole thing. See, when you're self-employed, you have to pay, do the deductions for your income tax manually. When you're self-employed, the deductions just come off automatically before you even get the paycheck. Believe me, it's easier to unless you actually want to be self-employed. Like if you have no interest in being self-employed, that's how you want it. You want it to be all automatic. What the problem was is, like I said, I was new to the game. I had just come out of university, and I didn't know for the first several years my income taxes were considerably less because of being being in college. I was getting deductions, huge deductions for years. So I thought I was being a good little boy and saving up each month. Well, I guess being a good little adult in this case. And then so I thought, okay, and the years come. I've got my savings from each month. I should be able to just pay it off, no problem. And then one day, I think it was the first year that we did income taxes, since first year that I was married, and then I was shocked to find that it was nearly more than twice as much as it had been in previous years. I thought it had been a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was because the deduction that I was getting from being in school was, that was done now. I had no idea. I was totally new to the game. I had no clue. I just thought that was what the price of it was. So here's my piece of advice. If you have no interest in being self-employed, if you want to be an employee and you go to get a job and somebody offers you that kind of deal where you're going to be on contract, you will, for all intents and purposes, you'll actually be self-employed, tell that person to go fuck themselves, because that is a shit deal. Don't accept that. If you're going to accept it for a very temporary amount of time. Like plan on using it as a stepping stone. Plan on getting the fuck out of there, because that is bullshit. Or at the very least say, I'm not interested in contract. I need to be an employee. It's something. Have some balls or some lady balls, whatever you need, whatever you need for the confidence to tell them to no, absolutely not. And the other piece of advice is, if you've got, when it comes to income tax time, know what your deductions are. If you're getting an accountant to help you out, which, I mean, like 90% of people do, I think. I did pull that statistic completely out of my ass. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But I think most people do it that way. Yeah, find out what your deductions are, because, one of those deductions could be something that you're not going to have next year. You want to be prepared for that. Yeah, I wrapped that up in 7 minutes. That wasn't too bad. So, yeah, that's pretty much all for now. I guess need a little bit of luck, a little bit of praying, and hopefully the interviews or potential interviews in the near future will hold some good fortune for me, because if I could just overlap this thing and have a new job lined up as soon as I'm done with this one, man, that'd just be awesome. Oh, speaking of which, if I do have an interview tomorrow, I better shave. Good Lord, look at that scruffy bastard. All right. Well, that's pretty much it. I'll see you next time, and if you're in a similar situation as me, hang in there.